Okay. My name is Carlos Velazquez. I'm here for the Garner Senior Center, and I'd like to share with you today an art with the advent, of course, with the radio, televisions, movies, and now the phones and computers. One of the arts which is being lost is storytelling. Storytelling has been around for millions of years. If you can imagine, one of the early hunters coming home to the cave, and he has his family all around him, and he's all excited with the hunt he's just been out. And he tries to explain to his family about this monster he saw that was covered with hair, that had a long nose. Oh, it was hard to believe. And his ears were so big. He's so big. And as he walked, it was like thunder. You could hear the ground just shaking. Well, of course, that's storytelling. And today, many of the Native American areas, many communities, reservations, reserves, are still continuing the storytelling. We use it now for educating our children, usually the smaller children, but the adults like to sit in many times about things to eat, things not to eat. Something could be poisonous, how to stay away from it. It talks about traditions, things we should know, different moral characters that we want people to learn about. And because of this, I wanted to share some with you. One of the first ones is about a turtle. Turtles don't grow very big. Out in the islands, I'm sure they do, but locally they're fairly small. You have the little yellowbacks, you have the sliders, you have all kinds of different kinds of turtles. Well, as you know, the turtle hibernates. And during the winter, the turtle goes down to the bottom of the lake, digs into the mud, and is there until. And this one little turtle, spring was coming, he got out of the mud and worked his way up to the top. He looked around, he went up, but he was still in the water. And he went up higher, but he was still in the water. And he said, "This is unusual." And then he went up a little more, and now he was at the top of the lake. And he looked around, and he saw all his friends and all the people that he lived with, all the animals that were there were gone because now the water was all over. It had covered everything. He didn't know what was happening. He just looked and was in amazement. And then he started to hear some rapping. He started to hear some knocking, and he wondered what was going on. And he swam over, and he saw this big brown animal swimming around and making all kinds of noises with pieces of wood. And he got closer to it, and he noticed it had really long teeth. He says, "Wow." He says, I don't know what that is. So he got closer to it, and then he asked the beaver, "Who are you?" And the beaver told him, he says, "Well, I moved in here. This is where I want to raise my family." And the turtle says, "Well, why? Are you the one responsible for all the water?" He says, "Yeah, I built a dam over there, and now I'm getting more water, and I'm going to bring my family over." And the turtle says, "But you can't do that. All my friends lived here, and now they have to leave." "Sorry, that's about it." So the poor little turtle didn't know what to do. So he started to think, "I know what I'll do." He came over, he says, "You're so big. You're so big and strong." He says, "No, I'm just a little turtle." He says, "Yeah." He says, "But I want you to leave here." "Oh, I'm not going to go." He says, "I'll tell you what. I'll make a bet with you." He says, "If I can beat you in a race, then you will knock down the dam, the water will leave, and everything will be back to normal." "Nah, I don't know. I mean, you're kind of small. I'd be taking advantage of you." Turtle says, "No." He said, "You'll be surprised. I'm pretty fast." The beaver says, "Okay, I'll make that deal with you. And if I win, you'll leave me alone." Turtle says, "Okay." So they went, and the turtle says, well, let's race across the lake that you made here. Okay, that sounds really good. First one to cross, that's the one that's going to win. So they got on the side, they got ready to go, and the turtle said, go. And the beaver slid into the water. And what's the last thing that slides into the water with a beaver? The big old tail. So the turtle watched the beaver slide into the water. And you know, turtles, they have little claws on the ends of their paws. And as the turtle slid in, he grabbed the back of the tail of the beaver. Well, the beaver tail is very, very strong. He uses it as a paddle. So he didn't feel this turtle. And of course, the turtle was pretty smart. And as the beaver swam, and he's swimming, and the turtle's behind him, and he's saying, oh, you're so fast, you're so fast. I'll never beat you. And of course, he's laughing to himself. Okay, I got this, I got this. So off they go. And the beaver's just swimming away, and the turtle, oh, you're so fast, you're so fast. Well, they got close to the end of the lake, and all of a sudden, the turtle, which is a snapping turtle, and that little turtle took his mouth, and he bit the tail of that beaver. And that beaver yelled, oh! And he said, something's on my tail, and he flipped it, and he flipped it. And of course, it was the turtle. And he threw that turtle way over there. And he threw the turtle up on the land. And then he got back in the water and he started swimming. By the time he got to the edge, and there's the little turtle just smiling and saying, I won, so you've got to knock your dam down. And the beaver said, how did you do it? He says, well, I'm small, but I'm still pretty fast. And that's the story of the beaver and a turtle. And it's funny because tales like this have been told for many times, many areas, in many books and schools. If I would change the name of the beaver and the turtle to the turtle and the hare, that would be a story many of you already know. So you see, the storytelling has been going around for many years. There is a story about a little sparrow. Now, you've seen sparrows. They're all over. They're quite small, but there's hundreds of them and hundreds of them. And when spring rolls around, they move to different areas. And what happens is, now when they go from one area to another, it's because the weather changes many times. So winter was coming along. And they said, oh, it's time to go, it's time to go. And all the sparrows got ready, and they started to fly off. And as they did, one of the sparrows hit another, and he fell down and he hurt his wing. And his friends flew back, and he says, what's wrong? He says, oh, I hurt my wing, and I can't go. He says, but you go on without me. You go on without me. I'll be okay. And he says, okay. And his friends just didn't want to leave him, but he says, I'll take care of myself. So sure enough, they all flew away, and now it's this little sparrow walking around, and his wing was hurt. And he looked around. He had to find some place to stay because winter was coming. So he went over to this big oak tree. Oak tree, oh, just big and just beautiful and very proud. Well, the little sparrow says, could I climb into one of your branches? I'll cover myself with leaves. And that way I can stay warm. And then I can come out and then I can just drink, find some water. And the oak tree says, are you kidding? I'm the oak tree. I'm the biggest tree in this forest. And I'm dealing with a sparrow? No. Go away. And the poor little sparrow just said, okay. And he left, and he goes to this other tree. And he says, Mr. Elm Tree, what? He says, can I climb up in your branch and cover myself? I want to stay here for the winter. And the elm says, no. Can't you see how tall I grow? I'm so big and healthy, I don't even want you near me. And the poor little sparrow, he just went from tree to tree, and they wouldn't take him. And then he finally came to this one tree, and he looked at it, and its leaves were very different. They were long and green. He says, "What kind of tree is that?" He says, "Well, it's the long leaf pine." "Oh, that's really unique. Would you mind, Mr. Pine, if I climbed up in your branches and covered myself with your needles?" "No, no, no. Come on up." And sure enough, the sparrow climbed up, and he covered himself with the pines, and he would get up and he would get something to drink, and when the snow came, he would drink the snowflakes that dropped by him, and he just was so comfortable. And sure enough, spring came, and the sparrow felt better, and he flew down, and all of a sudden, all the other sparrows came flying back. Oh, and he felt so good. He felt so good because he had all his friends with him. And they were just hugging him, and he started to tell them the story of the trees. Well, what happened is the Creator heard. The Creator says, "What? Those trees wouldn't take care of you? No, they were so big and strong. And they wouldn't protect you? No, they wouldn't. That is not good. We have to do something about that. This is what I'm going to do. Every winter, those big, beautiful trees, well, I'm going to take all their leaves from them. All their leaves are going to fall, and they're going to be ugly because they'll have nothing but branches with no leaves on them. But the pine, because you took care of them, I'm going to let you have your green all year long." And that's how today we see the evergreens. And they were the trees that were good to the sparrow. And the other trees that were mean, they all lose their leaves and they look really bad all year long. So this is a story how seasons were taught to the children. They were taught that this is how it happens. It's something that's made by the Creator. And it's something that we see green from the pines, but the leaves that have fallen, no, during the winter, they are not good. So this is the seasoning talk. There is another one I'd like to share with you. Because we have so many animals and birds and reptiles and different things that live with us in the forest and out in the yards, the little ones we want to teach them. So one day the Creator says, "Well, I have so many birds years and years ago." He says, "We've got to do something. I love the birds. I love how they fly, and they're so beautiful. But you know, last night I dreamt, and during my dream, I heard this beautiful song, and it stayed in my head. The song just went on and on. It was beautiful. What I would like to do, I would like to take this song and spread it to everybody in the world. I want everybody to hear this song. So who do I give it to? Do I give it to a turtle? No, 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 no. Turtles are so slow, they won't even get a few miles away. Do I give it to a rabbit? Rabbits are fast, but they tire because they're so small. I know. I'm going to give it to a bird, because birds can fly and they can cover the whole earth and they can take this beautiful song to everyone. But what bird? There's hundreds of birds. So he says, I'll have a race. So he calls all the birds of the world to get together. And sure enough, there they were. They filled the hills. There were just nothing but birds, all different, from little to big, all colors. And the Creator says, I have this song, this beautiful song, and I want to take it around the world, and I want a bird to do it. And all the birds, they go, oh, I want to do it. I said, no, what we're going to do to be fair, we're going to have a race. The bird that flies the highest, that's the bird I'm going to give the song. Oh, boy, that's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. So everybody go to sleep. And tomorrow morning, when you're feeling good, we'll have the race. Okay, sounds good. So all the birds get together. I don't know if birds have pillows or blankets, but they were all sleeping pretty quietly. And this one little bird just kept flying around. He was so upset because he looked and all these birds were bigger, and really big. So he went over, he was going to look for a place to sleep, and he saw this eagle, big bald eagle, beautiful. He says, I'm going to go with that eagle. Well, you know eagles, they're all covered with beautiful feathers. The necks all have feathers. Oh, they're just beautiful. So the little bird climbed in to the feathers, made himself at home, and went to sleep. Well, the next morning, everybody was up. And the Creator says, you know what? It's time. Let's fly. So he just told everyone to go. And they did. Now, turkeys are pretty big. How high do you think they fly? Not very high. How about chickens? They fly. They don't go very high either. And pretty soon you start to see the birds. You see the bluebirds. You see the cardinals. They fly pretty high, but not very high. Pretty soon they got tired. And then you have the geese, and you have some bigger birds. They go higher, but they still don't go very high. So you know what? All of a sudden, all these birds get tired, but two. There's the eagle. He's there to win. And then you have a red-tailed hawk. Red-tailed hawks are very strong. They're not very big, but they're very, very strong. And they're very, very stubborn. And this one red-tailed hawk was flying, and he just went, and he was just flying ahead of the eagle. Eagle's taking his time. He doesn't need to worry about this little thing. And sure enough, that hawk just keeps going, and the eagle says, that's enough. That's enough of that. So he spreads his wings, and he flies, and he goes higher than the hawk. The hawk says, okay, that's it. I know I can beat this guy. And he puts everything he can into it. And he flies, and he flies, and he flies, and he's higher than the eagle. And the eagle says, no, I can't have this. And he spreads his wings further, and he flies, and he takes off, and he gets higher than the red-tailed hawk. And the red-tailed hawk, who's a very nice guy, he comes over and he says, congratulations, you won. And he turns and goes down. And the eagle flies a little higher, and then he turns, and he starts to come down. But as he turns, something comes out of his neck. Something flies out, and the eagle goes down. And this little bird flies a little higher than the eagle. And then he flies back down to the earth. And he goes to the Creator, and he's very, very smug. He goes, that's it. Give me the song. And the Creator says, well, it was my promise the bird that flew the highest would get the song. He says, okay, give it to me. The Creator says, I'm going to give you this song, but you're never going to be able to sing it. You're only going to be able to hum it. Do you know what the name of that bird is? Do you know what the name of that bird is? It's a hummingbird. And this is how the hummingbird got its name. Many, many of the different animals that we have their names, and this is how it's explained to them. Many experiences that the animals have are explained through storytelling. Because the Indian nations many years ago were scattered all over, they were Bedouins, they had to move wherever the food was. They didn't have languages of each other. They all had their own. So whenever they would get together, they would use sign language. And I would like to share with you and teach you a little sign language story. If you would, you can follow it along. The sign language that is used now, the American Sign Language and international, is very close to what the Native Americans have done, or the indigenous, as we refer to ourselves. And when you point to yourself with one finger, it's me. With two fingers, it's we. So let's do our story. It's we are one, the number one. So come on, try it with me. It's we are one. All right, we are one. So we are one family. Okay, let's go again. We are one family. Now, because we all live on the same earth, Mother Earth, who lives on this earth? Well, let's see if you can figure this out. Do you know what this would be? I know a lot of people would say a snake. No, not a snake. It's a fish. Now, if I did this, that would be a snake. Why? What makes a difference? When I do this, do you see anything different? Yes, it has fangs. So a snake would do this, and a fish is this. So let's go. We are one family. The fish. Now, what if I asked you to give me a sign for a bird? What would you do? Oh, you would do this, or you would do this. Well, butterflies do this. Mosquitoes fly. But what does a bird have that none of them have? A bird has a beak. Right? So that's how we say a bird. We use a beak. So let's start from the beginning. We are one family. The fish, the bird. Now, this last one is a wolf. Now, dogs, they have snouts. But a wolf not only has a snout, but it has a really mean look. So if you can, make the snout and a really mean look. Okay? All right, let's start from the beginning. We are one family. The fish, the bird, the wolf, and me. We are all part of this one earth, and we should always think of ourselves that we are part of this one earth with the birds and with the animals. And as we speak in the Native Americans, we are the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged, and the one-legged. Sounds crazy when we say one-legged. What would you think a one-legged would be? It's a plant. It's a tree because their main root is their one leg. So this is how we share the earth. Sharing stories with other people is nice. And I've had many people who come to me and they say, can I tell these stories? They're Native American stories. And what I tell them is the origin is Native American, but we are very proud if you would take these stories and share them. And as long as you show respect for them, when you start, you can say, this is a Native American story. And that way you've given credit to the people who have given you the story. So if you want to use these stories, you want to share them with your friends, please go right ahead, just out of respect. As a indigenous, one of the things we always do when we're going to talk about Mother Earth, we're going to talk about the people of the earth. We always give respect to the natives that lived here, to the ancestors that lived here. Sometimes we know what their names are, sometimes we don't because they've been gone for so long. But they've still taken care of this earth. They've walked on this earth. And to them, we like to give respect by mentioning the ancestors. And to all of the ancestors and to all of you, I want to say thank you so very much for inviting me here and for sharing. And thank you.